Today I will show you how I make hollow punches for use in soft materials like gasket material, neoprene, rubber, leather, etc. I needed to make a new gasket for the pouring spout of one of my 5-gallon gas cans a while ago, and that's what got me started on this project and video. Over the years I've made a few of these round hole punches for making gaskets and for a few other things, but of course none of them were the exact right size for the project at hand, that is the gas can spout. So here's how I made the punches that I needed. I first cut out the large diameter of the gasket. Then I punched out the inner part of the gasket with a second punch, so that of course the gas could go through the gasket. You can buy sets of these hole punches for soft materials all over on the internet. So if you can find a set with the correct size punch that you need, go for it, since they are pretty cheap. But if you need a size that isn't standard, or you just want to do it yourself, then making your own is the way to go. Selecting stock for the punch. I hardly ever throw cutoffs or drops away, so here's a perfect excuse to use some of them. If you don't have such a stash, go to the pipe fittings area of any hardware store to get what you need. I am going to make dies for punching out garden hose sealing washers, so I need one punch of 1-inch OD and one punch to make a hole of about 5/8. I will use 1/8 thick neoprene gasket material for this job. So, for the OD of the washer, I need a piece of stock that is slightly than 1 inch in inside diameter and at least 1 1/8 inch OD if I'm going to use pipe or tubing. Of course, you can also use solid round of 1 1/8 to 1 1/4 OD and then drill out the ID as needed. But in this case, I will use water pipe. Here are a couple of the washers that you can buy. So obviously the ones that I'm going to make today are just to show the process, not that I actually have to have some right now. The 1-inch Schedule 40 water pipe is pretty close, since I think I can get away with my washers being 40 to 60 thousandths oversize. For the inside of the washer, which I want to be approximately 5/8 of an inch, I will look for stock that could be as large as almost 1 inch OD and an ID of 5/8 or smaller. Again, I could use either pipe or tubing if I had some, or I could use solid stock. In this case, however, Schedule 40 water pipe is almost ideal. Once I have selected my stock, I cut it off to a couple of inches long. I see no reason to make my punches any longer than this, since I'm going to use the punches in a sort of a pressing machine as opposed to simply hitting the punches with a hammer to make the cutouts. If you plan to drive the punch with a hammer, you might want to make it even 4 to 6 inches long, so you have something to hold on to. Okay, let's face the stock. We're going to face both ends. Okay, will be the end you hit. And that came out pretty reasonable. Okay. This will be the end that will actually turn to the taper. Okay. Here we just want to make sure that we get all the way to a nice smooth surface, because the inside here will become the cutting edge. Okay. Okay, now we'll check to see if we need to bore this, which we will a little to clean it up anyway. And it's looks like it's about 640, which is a tiny bit over 5/8. So I'm just going to skim enough off the inside to clean up the inside here. So just install a boring bar here. Okay. That's pretty close. You can tell from the sound that the inside of water pipe isn't necessarily very accurate or true, and of course this is an old piece of water pipe too. I'll just check to see if it's completely cleaned up. Nope, got a little bit more to go here. Okay. Now we'll feed out pretty slow. So we get a fairly smooth corner there. Okay. Yeah, we just need just a couple more thou. Yeah, just take 2 thousandths. And the scratch pass out. So I went in about a ½ inch deep, not a big deal. We'll remove that guy, and we'll install a turning tool. Have the compound set to 60 degrees. The 60 degrees isn't critical, but the idea here is that the included angle of the finished edge will be about 30-degree angle. This gives the cutting edge a pretty good amount of support. but if you were cutting tougher materials, you might want to increase the included angle to much as 45 degrees, but I'd stick with the 60 for most things. Now I will turn the taper which produces the cutting edge of the punch. I can take fairly heavy cuts until I get close to sharpening the cutting edge, then I'll take a couple of fine cuts. I usually don't do any other finishing of the edge, but I suppose a bit of light file work would improve the sharpness. I'll lock the carriage now. So I'm going to do my feeding with the compound. Back and forth. Feed in a bit. Back and forth. Feed in a bit. Back and forth. Okay, we're just about there. I'm just going to take a couple of thousandths here. Couple more thousandths. Actually, this isn't terribly critical because I'm just cutting into that ID anyway. So if I go too far, I just end up with a taking a little bit off the overall length. Yeah, a couple more. And just for good measure, we'll do a spring pass. And that's it. I see there's just a tiny little patch. I don't know if you can see it, but it didn't clean up. But it is cleaned up right at the very edge. Anyway, that's it for the taper of the punch. Okay, we've got the boring bar in place to bore the ID. And this particular piece of pipe shows to be about 138, 140. So again, this is a matter of just cleaning up. I just set a stop so I go in the same distance, about a ½ inch. Just because I can, no particular reason for picking that number. I'm just taking this slow, just 4 or 5 thousandths at a time, because I just want to make it round, you know. See if we're cleaned up. I'm just going to take a spring pass here, call that good, and set the feed on, so I do that slow. And feed it back out again. Again, just a spring pass. And there we are. Now we'll turn the taper. Lock the carriage. Actually, I'm going to pull this back some, getting sort of the end of the range, and I want better support. There, so. That's better. Okay, lock the carriage. Feed out some. Feed out a little more. Whoops. Feed out, feed not in. Well, feed, okay. Feed in a little more. Feed in a little more. Feed in a little more. Still got a little ways to go. Taking about 5 thousandths or 10 thousandths off the diameter at a time right there. I'll check to see where I'm at. I'm pretty close, but I'll take another, say, 3. And again, a spring pass back. what that looks like or feels like. I'm going to take another 3 anyway. Yeah, I think that's got it. Okay, so that's the OD punch for my faucet washers. It feels nice and crisp and sharp on the inside. It's, you know, I can feel burr, I think. Yeah. Okay, that's that. I'm going to use this treadle hammer today for punching out my washers. I'm going to use the treadle hammer today for punching out my washers. It's a foot-powered blacksmithing tool. Okay, I mean it could be anything, but just happen to have it, so I'm going to use it. Piece of wood on top of here so the punch doesn't get dulled by striking something metal. I've got some 1/8 inch neoprene, which might be a little bit thick for this job, but not a big deal. So I'm just going to punch out a couple of washers here. Let's see here. And really about all you got to do is that. And there's the washer. And there's another washer. There's another washer. Okay. There. Okay, so that's what you get for this process. Now we'll punch the IDs. Okay, I'm not all that great at centering these babies, but it's not that critical on this one. I suppose you could make some sort of measuring marks and so on. Hit it a little harder. I just thought I would just see what would happen if I just stepped on it. You can see why making them a little longer might be a good idea, you know, to have room for your hands. But at any rate, there's my first washer. There's my first washer. And there's the punch out that you get. Okay. There's the second washer. Not centered quite as well as the first one. But hey, that's all right. And there's a third one. There we go. Here are the punches that I have made over the last several years. They go all the way from about a 1/2 inch up to almost, or is it a little over 2 inches, something like that. But you can see that it's quite a variety, and I just made them as I need them. This one, I needed an oval punch, and I don't know how well this is going to show up in the camera, but this is just a piece of electrical conduit. And actually on this one, I sharpened the outside rather than the inside, and I then squashed it to get to be the oval size that I needed. Okay. Other than that, they're all just round, and they all have the taper turned on the outside. Now you have seen how I make these hollow hole punches. But buy or make? I see no reason to go to all the trouble of making your own if the size you need is readily available cheaply on the internet, especially if you only need to make a few cutouts, unless you simply enjoy working with your lathe, as do I. But if you need a certain size that isn't available, or if you need it right now, then clearly do-it-yourself is the clearer way to go. Thank you for watching.